5 years ago, I was invited to participate in my daughter's middle school career day. I was really excited to be sitting between the petroleum engineer on this side and the psychologist on that side to be able to turn this group of 7th graders onto the future, right? That's what I do. I told them all about the exciting work I do in artificial intelligence and regenerative design, and I couldn't wait for their faces to light up. And instead, I got blank faces first, and then the arms crossed, saying, no, robots are going to take over our jobs. AI is going to take over our minds. Climate change is going to burn us all up. Don't you think so, Mrs. Giordano? I was so unprepared for that. That's not my view of the future. And as I thought about it, I thought, God, how sad that they're so skeptical and so concerned. Where's the bright side? Where's all the optimism around what's possible? Over the years, I found that this is a consistent story. I do give talks a lot about the future. I work with the people who are designing and building the future. And after we have these sessions and we get all excited about it, the parents come to me afterwards and tell me over and over again stories of their 18-year-old, their 14-year-old, their 12-year-old, their 4th grader who's worried about the future and their own futility. It breaks my heart because I can see all kinds of possibility, but then I think about what the stories are and the posts are that come across their screens all day and all night, and it's not surprising they feel this way. And the reality is there are some stark headlines, right? Whether we talk about the fact that robots are going to take over our jobs by 2030, or at least a percentage of them, or the 6 things that we should be most afraid of with artificial intelligence, or the fact that animals are becoming, increasingly extinct, or plastic is taking over our ocean, or temperatures continue to rise. We talk about loneliness. We talk about all kinds of issues that are real and that do deserve our attention. So that part is true. But it's not only the stories and the headlines, it's also we perpetuate them. We send the scary stuff around. A few years ago, a woman I really admire is a student at UC Berkeley, got a job in an artificial intelligence company that I was associated with, and she was so excited to tell me about her internship. And of course, I celebrated it. I've been working at the same company. We could see all the possibility. But as she told her friends about it, she was getting memes back of the Terminator, right? No one was celebrating that she might be figuring out how to predict earthquakes or create individualized educational opportunities. They were all worried that she somehow was going to take over the world with scary brains. The fact is, these aren't just headlines, and they aren't just memes. There are things that become stories. This is how we as humans make sense of the world around us, which then become our beliefs. They are the things that we create meaning, and they make us feel, are we safe? Do we have value? Is there a future we can look forward to? It's all about what it is that informs what we believe is possible. These stories really matter. The stories we hear, the stories we tell others, the stories we tell ourselves. And here's the catch. There are many industries that are incentivized to sell us a scary story, right? The entertainment industry, the media industry, the social media industry for sure, and also the incumbent businesses that are threatened by what is possible on the horizon, right? They try and make us believe that renewable energy is scary, or that plant-based proteins might not be as healthy for us. So we hear lots of conflicting advice as we think about the future and our opinions toward it. Fortunately, Mark Twain, American writer, gave us a little bit of perspective on this when he said, you can't trust your judgment if your imagination's out of focus. And I would argue our imagination is way out of focus. The good news is that we can actually change it, right? We can look for the positive story. We can look for the things that actually empower us around the future, and we can believe that we have an agency. We have the opportunity, if not the responsibility, to actually go build the better story, right? Do we want to live in a world that looks like Handmaid's Tale or Elysium or Terminator? Or do we want to build a world and live in a world that looks like Wakanda did in Black Panther, or like the Starship Enterprise did in Star Trek? It turns out utopian science fiction has a much more powerful impact on us. It is the kind of thing that has inspired all the technologists to build the Transformer and the holodeck. Even the cell phone came from someone who would watch Star Trek and got excited about wanting to create that, right? We have an opportunity to actually sell each other and to build toward a much more positive story. So here's mine. I want to turn you on to the story that I see when I look at the future. Right? When you talk again to the technologists, the designers, the entrepreneurs, the engineers, the scientists who are building the future, they will tell you we're 1% in to what is about in the corner. Right? We have barely seen what is possible. I describe it as a productivity revolution that we're heading into. And here are the kinds of things that I get to celebrate and that I get to see. In Austin, it is possible to see a company called Icon, who's able to 3D print a home. Originally, it took 24 hours and $12,000, and now it's down to 12 hours and $7,000, trying to get it down to $4,000. Just for perspective, the equivalent 1,000 square foot home that you would build the normal way, the way that we're used to, costs about $156,000 to build. So we're going from $156,000 to $4,000. Imagine the impact that has on being able to create dignified and safe housing for everyone. And that's exactly what Icon is doing with another company called News Story. I also can see the tremendous benefit in vertical farming. If someone asked me like the one thing that's going to really transform everything, I would argue it's vertical farming, which means moving away from land-based farming to putting it inside buildings or even inside an old tunnel that is no longer useful, right? It uses 95% less water. It is 10 times faster. We are able to grow in 400 times or times the square footage. And because there are no bugs, there are no pesticides, and we can totally optimize the nutrition, which makes it so much more possible to imagine how we're going to feed 9 billion people on this planet, not just food, but healthy food. It's the thing that's driving the whole push toward plant-based proteins. The food industry is going through the biggest transformation it has seen since refrigerated rail cars, and I think that's great news. I'm super excited about it. And the same thing when you look at the medical frontier. There's so many things I could talk about being able to 3D print organs and skin and being able to use AI to read X-rays more efficiently. But even robots are now beginning to help us do remote surgery. There's been remote heart surgery in parts of the world already where we can start to see, again, we can make medical care more accessible to others. And it's not just about food and about housing and about medical care, it's also about fun. There are so many entrepreneurs right now who are exploring the edge of space, from low orbital all the way to Mars. In your lifetime, you will see someone go to Mars, I am sure of it. But in the meantime, perhaps you'll be able to go to the Space Hotel, which is supposed to open in 2027, and right outside of Earth's orbit, and be able to offer Space Jam-type gravity-free basketball. Wouldn't that be fun? Or you can put on your VR goggles and potentially take a trip at some point. There's a company called Air Nippon Airways, ANA, that doesn't just think of themselves as an airline company, they actually think of themselves as a travel company. They're making it possible for people to be able to go in, again, through virtual reality and robotics and haptic technology that allows us to feel things, allow us to explore a destination we might not be able to get to, either because physically we can't, financially we don't want to spend the money, or it's just overrun by other people, or maybe it's in the past, and we get to visit something historic. So it's extraordinary to see what's on the horizon when we start to think about, again, technological innovation and this first productivity revolution. But it's not just technology advances. It's also our way of thinking. Our consciousness is changing. We're shifting from a mindset of winning at all costs and being able to keep all the resources to thinking about caring and how we steward them with much more compassion, empathy, and I'll even use the word love, right? Whether we think about a universal basic income or any of the other universal basic services, from transportation to healthcare to education to housing, again, is a possibility. Or we think about companies like H&M that have committed to go completely to circular supply chain by 2030. They're 57% already. They're trying to get to 100% because they realize that fast fashion is not sustainable for their customers or for any of us, right? We're also seeing a huge commitment to skilling and upskilling and reskilling, whether it's companies like PwC, who are putting $3 billion against that, or Walmart that's offering college for $1 a day. Everyone's sort of jumping in and realizing that there will be this skills gap, and we'll need to be able to address it, which then also means that we will be rethinking work. What does work look like? It may not be 9 to 5, 5 days a week anymore. It could be 4 days a week. It could be shorter hours. It could be, as we're seeing clearly, more remote. But it's also about the structure of it, because we're asking people to take on more and learn more and invent more. It means that we have to change the way we work. We're no longer in a factory assembly line way of working, right? We're in a productivity way of working. All of which is designed to ensure that we are no longer work over here, life over here, mental health over there. It's about integrating all of that and thinking much more thoughtfully about how we build systems that hold people well, right? And allow them to thrive in an inclusive way, we hope. So here's what I see as I look at the stack of technologies that will continue to advance and emerge and converge. We can't even imagine what will be possible, right? It's really almost mind-boggling to see the solutions that they will be able to generate and the complexity that they will be able to manage that right now we can't. Now here's the tricky part. Several years ago, I also sat there wondering whether or not I should be totally optimistic about the future or really pessimistic about the future. How could I hold both of those things? Am I a glass half empty or a glass half full? And I realized I'm all of it and more. And I built a tool. It's a really simple map. I call it the RIF map, right? It's because when I look at the future, there are 4 emotional responses I can have to it. I can think about what am I relieved by, what am I inspired by, what am I frustrated by, and what am I fearful of. So I'll just take you for a moment just into sort of an abridged version of my RIF, because all of these are true. right? I am relieved by the fact that education has become so ubiquitous. If you have an internet connection and any kind of device, you'll be able to connect to the Khan Academy or any other place where you can learn for free, right? Yes, we'll still pay for education, but not necessarily. Around the world, we'll have more and more access to it. That to me is really exciting. I can also connect with almost anyone around the world who shares my same passions or has some of the same questions that I do, and I can collaborate with them very, very easily. And lastly, I'm relieved by the fact that we are talking about sustainability more. We are talking about the commons. We're talking about how to build more systemic solutions to things. These are new shifts in consciousness that I think are really important, and I'm very relieved that we've gotten there. I'm inspired, again, by all these technologies and how quickly they are advancing. I'm inspired by the fact that we'll have the opportunity to redesign, reimagine, and reconfigure almost every industry, from manufacturing to, again, food and housing, medical care, education, finance. All of it is up for redesign. And I think that's really inspiring. Now, I recognize that some people might find that frightening, but for me, I'm very, very excited about what's possible. I am, however, frustrated by some things, right? I'm frustrated by how slowly things are moving. I'm frustrated by how much people keep hanging on to some nostalgic understanding of the past that actually didn't work for many people and created a lot of externalities that we're trying to clean up right now around our environment and around our own well-being. I'm frustrated by the lack of real concern around resources, right? Whether it's water or waste, that we aren't really fully harnessing. Again, we're moving closer in that direction, and a portion of people are, but not enough are really thinking about resource stewardship in the way that I would like. And I'm very frustrated that there's not enough diversity in the building of these technological solutions, right? Across the board, gender, ethnicity, age, background, we need everyone in order to build safely moving forward. And there are some things I'm frightened by. Some of those headlines I described at the beginning are true, right? Climate stability, tremendous issue. Loneliness and our separation from one another and the mental health impacts it has, huge issue. Wealth and income gap, a growing issue that we have to address, right? And the fact that we're heading into an algorithmically driven future in which we have to think a lot about privacy and a lot about responsibility and ethics. So these are things that demand our attention. The question is, knowing this, what do we want to do about it, right? This is my compass. I no longer have a map, right, or a playbook in which I can define exactly how it's all going to turn out, but I do have a compass. And my compass is these two questions. I think a lot about what the future needs and expects of me and of all of us. It's part of what the RIF map shows. And it also shows what we're in a unique position to create and contribute to that future as an individual, as a team, as an organization, as an industry, I will even argue as a nation. That conversation is happening right now. That's part of what makes this future so extraordinary, right? It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also tremendous impact that we get to have. It's actually, as I looked at this RIF map and I thought about those two questions, it's actually caused me to behave differently, right? I champion the things that I am relieved by and excited by. Again, I'm super grateful for things like Khan Academy or Wikipedia or Zoom, where I can connect with anybody, right? I'm inspired to champion the ideas that I think can build a better future. I am a big proponent of artificial intelligence. I work with a company now to help transform organizations because I believe it will have a positive impact more than a negative impact, and I want to steer it that way, right? The things that I'm frustrated by, I have built solutions for. Around the diversity question, I last year launched the Futurist Society because I felt like women's voices weren't heard enough in the world, again, of not just historic innovation, but future innovation. And I want us to be a part of those conversations. We're not pushing anybody away. We're just making the table bigger, right? And in my frustration about moving too slowly and thinking too short term, I've just written a book in which I'm trying to get business leaders to not just change what they do, but to change the way they think. Right? If we can all get into this place of thinking more about, again, caring versus winning, and about how to build solutions that are safe and inclusive and build a dynamic mindset, we'll be able to create extraordinary solutions. And for the things that I'm frightened of, I put as much energy as I can to blunting what I think is dangerous, right? Or creating a solution that is sort of the antidote to that. So around fear of the future, I created the Career Fair for the Future for college and high school students to see how technology can actually empower the professions they're interested in versus make them go away completely. I'm an advocate for something called partnerism. Check it out at partnerism.org. It's a social and economic structure that looks at the way that we can work with each other instead of against each other. It's power with versus power over. It's really thinking about it from the biggest systemic place that I can try and drive some impact and change. And honestly, it is because of this love for ideas, this ability to be able to share this kind of thinking across the board that inspired me to be part of TEDx from the very, very beginning. I'm very proud of this platform and its ability to be able to convince, to seduce people, invite people, share ideas that they might not be exposed to otherwise. Here again is my story, right? If we're only 1% in, that means the future isn't happening to us. It means it is us, right? And it isn't preordained, we get to build it. So the question I ask, what makes me believe that? What is the internal story that allows me to hold that space? It's this line. The invitation that you're playing small does not serve the world. That's a pretty provocative line when you really think about it, right? It comes from an essay by Marianne Williamson that I'll share with you now in a minute-long video.
Our Deepest Fear, from A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson.
Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate.
Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous?
Actually, who are you not to be?
You are a child of the universe.
Your playing small does not serve the world.
There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you.
We are all meant to shine, as children do.
We are born to make manifest
of humanity that is within us. It is not in some of us, it is in everyone.
And as we let our own light shine,
we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same.
As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thank you.
When I came across that 25 years ago, it literally changed my life. It made me realize that if we don't write our own stories, others will create them for us. If we don't actively build the future that we want to see, others will shape it for us. And that there is literally, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rebuild everything. This is our time not to be scared, but to play big. Thank you.